This video is an introduction to some of the online resources that you might use to research enslavers who own plantations in the British Caribbean, so Jamaica, Antigua, or other islands that were colonized by the British. I'm going to look at two main resources today. One is the Legacies of British Slaveownership database, which is run by University College London. And the other is the slave registers that are held in the UK National Archives, but are digitized on Ancestry.com. So I'm going to lead you through how to use those two databases and show you what kind of information you might find there, and just introduce you to what sorts of information is out there. So I'm going to just share my screen so that I can show you what I'm doing, and you can pause this or walk through with me. So the first thing I want to show you is Legacies of British Slave Ownership. This is a great database that has a lot of information in it. So you can just Google Legacies of British Slave Ownership, and it'll bring you to this page. Now, there are lots of ways to search this. You can just use the search box here, or you can use some of these more detailed forms if you know a little bit more information about the enslaver that you're researching. But I'm just going to start with the basic search box here, and I'm going to search for John Vassall. So John Vassall built the house that is now the Longfellow House on Brattle Street in Cambridge, Massachusetts. And he's someone that if you're interested in Cambridge history or American history more generally, you might have heard about. So I'm going to search for John Vassall. Now, this is going to return many John Vassalls. And I know that the John Vassall who built the Longfellow House on Brattle Street had a father named John Vassall and a son named John Vassall. But this is still more John Vassalls than I was expecting. So we're going to have to jump in here and figure out which one is the right one. So I'll start with John Vassall 1. And click on him. Okay, so you click on a person's name and it brings you to a biography of that person. Let's see if this is the right person. Okay, so this is someone who was born in 1713 and died in 1747. Okay, that's right. The son of Leonard Vassall and Elizabeth Gale. Yep, that's right. So this is John Vassall Sr., the father of the John Vassall who built the Longfellow House. So if this is John 1, then John 2 is probably the guy who built the Longfellow House. So let's look and see what information it has about John 1. There's this biography here, and it gives you the sources. Then there's this little summary that tells you the names of people who are close to him. So it says that he lived in what is now the United States. He was married twice to Elizabeth Phipps and Lucy Barron. Here are some of their children, including John II, who we'll get to. And it gives a little snippet of his will. So it says his will is registered in Middlesex County. If you're looking for the will, you can use that information. And it tells who he left some of his property to. Coming down here, it says associated estates. So these are the plantations or pieces of property that this database has that are connected to John 1. And it looks like Lower Works Pen and Newfound River, and then this is another Newfound River document. If we click on these, it'll give us information about those estates, which I want to do. But first, let's just look down and see what else is on this page. Relationships, it tells us these are other people who are mentioned in terms of people that he either left property to or received property from. So we know his brother, William Vassall, his father, Leonard Vassall, his son, John Vassall too, uncle, Florentius Vassall, this is Leonard's brother, another brother, Louis Vassall. So you can click on these people, all of the people who are connected, and see details about their estates too. It also says that here's an address for him. Oh, and an inventory. Okay, so when somebody dies, their estate is inventoried. And so this says that there's an inventory for John Vassall. That's good. So let's look up. It says he was born in 1713 and died in 1747. So this this inventory should be from 1747 or shortly after. Let's take a look. Okay, John Vassall inventory. Okay, 1748. So this is a snapshot of John Vassall's estate right after his death. All right, so here's the inventory. Okay, so we can see that the total number of people that he has enslaved across all of his properties was 1,167, 584 men, 583 women, children, and it gives the values, monetary values. The total value of his estate was 74,322 pounds, which is a lot of money. Like that's a lot of money in 1748. And you can see that the value of the enslaved people is 49,709 pounds of that. So the about 2/3 of his estate is in the value of the people that he enslaved. So that's just an overview of his estate. But let's look at some of the specific estates. So Lower Works Pen, what is this? Lower Works Pen is in Jamaica, and it's in the parish of St. Elizabeth. Oh, that's interesting, because I thought that John Vassal's plantation was in Hanover Parish. So this is interesting. This is a different property, maybe one that he inherited from another part of his family. And it's in a different parish. So a little bit east of, so Hanover Parish is way in the west, and St. Elizabeth is slightly more central. So let's see what this is. All right, here's this. Okay, let me go through what's on this page. So who's associated with Lower Works Pen? All of these people are associated with it at some time. Oh, I see some royals. We know from studying Cambridge history that the Vassal, Royal, and Oliver families were really closely connected. So I wonder if Joseph Royal is connected to that family. It says here associated claims. Claims are from the 1830s, excuse me. From the 1830s, when the UK abolished slavery, the UK government paid compensation, not to the enslaved people, but to the enslavers, compensation for the value of enslaved people who were freed. And that was a tremendous expenditure for the UK government. They actually just finished paying off their debt a few years ago, I think 2015. They finished paying off that debt. And so this says that in the 1830s, someone was paid 936 pounds, 4 shillings and 8 pence, in compensation for this place and the people who were enslaved there. So let's look at Lower Works Pen. What do they produce there? These are documents from the Jamaica National Archives. So it says Jamaica Archives, and it has the call number of the document. If you ever wanted to visit the Jamaica National Archives and see the original, that's the number of the document. And it just gives a little summary of what crops are being grown here. So it looks like sugar, rum, molasses. That's standard for a sugar plantation in Jamaica. But it looks like after the 1750s, like as we get into the 1770s, we're seeing more livestock, cotton, cattle, livestock, horses, sheep, mules, pasturage. So it looks like this is a plantation where they're doing a lot of livestock, growing cattle, hogs, hens, that sort of thing. So that looks like that's what's going on here at Lower Works Pen. But Lower Works Pen was not John Vassal's main source of income. His main source of income was this plantation, Newfound River, in Hanover Parish. So we're going to go to this, and the first thing you'll see is Newfound River. It's in Hanover Parish. There's a map, so you can zoom out and see where it is in Jamaica. You'll see it's all the way over west in Jamaica, somewhat close to Montego Bay. And we'll scroll down and see what kind of information this gives us. So there are a lot of people associated with this estate. John Vassal I, John Vassal II, John Vassal III. So John Vassal II had a bunch of sons. Spencer Vassal, who's named after Spencer Phipps, who was John I's father-in-law, who ended up raising John II, because John I died pretty early. So Spencer is named after Spencer Phipps. You'll see Thomas Oliver Vassal, right? This is a very intermarried family, so you'll see a lot of the names coming up again and again. All right, so there are some claims associated with Newfound River. Someone was paid 2,595 pounds in compensation, and someone else was paid 1,506 pounds in compensation. And you can click through to these associated claims and get information about who received those claims. It's usually the heirs of the people who were the loyalists who lived on Brattle Street. But it'll tell you here who these people are, and it will also give you the call numbers that you need to find the originals if you're doing archival research. So this number that begins with a T, this is the National Archives from the UK. This is the UK call number. So if you take this call number here and you go to the UK National Archives website, which is nationalarchives.gov.uk, you can search the catalog and you can put in that call number. Okay, you want this record, this claim. Okay, so this is Jamaica Office of Registry Slave Compensation Commission records. That's exactly what we're looking for. So we click here, and it says that this record is not digitized and cannot be downloaded, but you can request a copy. There's a copying service. It usually costs about 25 pounds for a copy of a document. And if you look on the Legacies database, it tells you what page 179. So if you wanted to order a page from these documents, you could do that. Or if you were in the UK and wanted to go to the National Archives and see it in person, you could do that too. Okay, so that's what a claim looks like. Newfound River has a lot of estate information as well from the Jamaica National Archives. This is a big plantation where enslaved people are making sugar, rum, and molasses. And so you'll see sugar, rum, and molasses over and over in these documents. These documents also, the little summaries tell you a little bit. It might tell you the name of the overseer, like this guy, Patrick Hunter, or John Morrison. So it gives you the names of some of the people who worked on the plantation. Remember, John Vassal is living in Cambridge, Massachusetts. He's not there in Hanover Parish. And so this gives you the names of some of the overseers and lawyers and other people who worked on that plantation. Sugar, rum, molasses, like it's just going to repeat a lot. When you start getting down here, later in the century, you might start seeing population. So let's see. Okay, all right. So 1799 registered with 201 enslaved people. Okay, so this is giving us a population of the plantation in 1799, which is going to be helpful because the slave registers, which name people by name, don't start until 1817. So it's good to have this earlier document there. We see here in 1810, there are 214 enslaved people at Newfound River. And we see the population here, 201, 198. One thing you'll notice is that, so the UK banned the transatlantic slave trade in 1807. And so after 1807, you'll notice that on most plantations, the population decreases after 1807 because not enough babies were being born to replace everyone who died. The way that Jamaican plantations worked was that they needed more captive Africans to keep the population increasing because there were so many diseases and people were worked so cruelly and abused so badly that the population did not reproduce itself. They needed that influx of captives to keep the population stable. And so after the UK stopped the transatlantic slave trade in 1807, you'll see that the population of most plantations in Jamaica decreases. Now, it was still possible to purchase enslaved people from one plantation to another or from one island to another. It was just the transatlantic slave trade that stopped. But usually you'll see, so you see a decrease. So 209, 201, 198. As time goes by, the population of this plantation is dropping. Now, when we get to 1817, we're going to see that there is a new document right here. Let's see. Which one is this? Okay. So this document, T71-190, pages 702 to 705. This is from something that's called the Slave Register. It's basically a census. And unfortunately, it's not linked to this database, but I'm going to show you how to find it. Because starting in 1817, you can find the actual names of the enslaved people at Newfound River. So I'm going to hop over to ancestry.com, which some of you use, and if you don't use, you can usually access through a library. But if you go here to search and you go to card catalog, this gives you all of the different databases that are within ancestry.com. And I'm just going to search for Slave Registers because that's the name of the collection. And it'll bring up this database, Former British Colonial Dependencies, Slave Registers, 1813 to 1834. Great, that's what we want. All right, so you can look through here, you can choose which colony you want. So I'm gonna do Jamaica. And for Jamaica, you can actually also choose the parish that you want. So I'm gonna put Hanover Parish. Now, you could just browse them if you wanted. So there's one for 1817, one for 1820, one for 1823, 29. But instead of browsing it, I'm just going to search because that's going to be faster for us. So I'm going to search John Vassal and see what comes up. Okay. One thing that's a little bit annoying about this database is that it's really hard to search for a particular estate, a particular plantation. It's designed to search for an individual person. And so the trick to using it is just finding somewhere to jump into the record, and then it will let you navigate through scans of the record. So I'm just going to click on the first result for John Vassal in Jamaica in Hanover Parish. And this is going to drop us right into the middle of a document. This is the middle of this census. So I'm going to roll this back a little bit, looking for the beginning of the census. This is a list, and I'm looking for the beginning. Okay, so the beginning of a document looks like this. Let me zoom in a little. Okay, so over here you have the National Archives and its call number right here. And then this is what the beginning looks like. The beginning of the document says who this is, what plantation this is, who owns it. So you'll see the names, John Vassal, Spencer Thomas Vassal, Thomas Oliver Vassal, and it's the property at Newfound River Estate. And then there's a list. So usually these lists are divided into men first and then women. Sometimes they're divided in different ways, but this one is men first and then women. And there are different columns. So it starts out with actually 2 columns of names. So this says original, and this says baptized names. So the people on this plantation could go by 2 different names. And so this is a really important document, especially if you're looking for someone who changed their name. Some of the names are the same. So like Robert is baptized as Robert Vassal. That might be something that you might have expected. But Isaac is baptized as John Reed, right? And so if you're looking for a post 1817 record, it might be hard for you to sort of track that Isaac and John Reed are the same person. So this document is really valuable for bridging that gap. The next column here is color. The color is a racial designation. So these say Negro or Quadroon or Sambo or other racial designations that were used to denote if someone had, 2 black parents, or a black parent and a white parent, or 3 black grandparents and 1 white grandparent. So they're different designations. in that column. The person's age, and then African or Creole. So if this person was born in Africa, or if they were born in Jamaica, they're called a Creole. That's here. And then there's a final column called remarks, and sometimes, especially for younger people who were born at Newfound River, it'll say the name of that person's mother. Okay, so right here we have Greenwich, baptized Samuel Bailey, Negro 28, Creole, born in Jamaica, son of Margaret. And if we look later in the list, we might be able to find Margaret and find out a little bit about her too. So this is the list of men. And you'll see it's not always in age order, but often children are at the end. And you'll see that for children, it's much more likely that children have their mother listed in the census. This goes down all the way to the youngest boy on this plantation in 1817 is Neptune, age 2 months. Right. Okay. And after that is women. So this is the list of women. Goes on for several pages. There's sometimes remarks too, like that this person ran away in June 1817. So this looks like the name is Frankie. She's 50 years old and she ran away before this census was taken. Okay, so we get to the end of this list of girls, and there's a total at the end. So there are 98 men and boys and 100 women and girls, so a total of 198 enslaved people on this plantation. And then this is also part of the record, this like little written part at the end. It's just the attestation from the census taker saying, so help me God, this is correct, and it has a signature. And then another record starts. Now, this record is of Newfound River Plantation, but you'll see the next plantation is actually Green River Estate, which was owned by William Vassall, another one of these vassals. So these are plantations owned by cousins. So if you wanted to look at William Vassall's estate, that starts here, or you could find it by searching. So those are two resources that you can use to learn more about the plantations and sort of more importantly about the enslaved people who lived on those plantations. So the Legacies of British Slaveownership database is going to give you a lot of like legal information about wills and inheritances and compensation claims, and the Ancestry.com Slave Registries database is going to give you these scans of the censuses. And you can compare these. So there's one for 1817 for these plantations, then there's going to be another one in 1820, another one in 1823. So you can compare year to year tracing people through these censuses.